Channel 4, the local station. This is an election 2015 special. Jacksonville's mayoral debate. Who will run the city of nearly 1 million people for the next 4 years? Will it be the current mayor or one of his 3 challengers, a former Republican Party leader, a member of the city council, or a local entrepreneur? The frontrunners are locked in a bitter battle of negative campaign ads.
More cops, more crime, less safety for Jacksonville families.
Lenny Curry, a negative campaign. He always puts politics first.
Tonight, we hear from the candidates about the top issues facing the city, like reducing crime and making communities safer, unlocking the potential of downtown Jacksonville, and solving the city's looming pension crisis. Voters go to the polls in a few days. Tonight's your chance to get informed. Now, from the campus of Jacksonville University, your moderator, Channel 4's Kent Justice.
And good evening and welcome to our 2015 mayoral debate. This Tuesday, March 24th, we're going to head to the polls for Jacksonville's first election, something open to every registered voter in Duval County. And so for the next hour, you're going to hear from all 4 candidates for mayor in Jacksonville. We're going to introduce those candidates to you in just a moment. First, here is Jacksonville University President, Mr. Tim Cost.
Good evening. Thank you, Ken. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Jacksonville University. On behalf of our great partners, WJXT Channel 4 and the Public Policy Institute here, we're honored to have you here. We particularly thank the 4 great candidates. It's a terrific night for Jacksonville, Florida. You know, for over 80 years in this exact location, we've been hosting people to speak, from Lyndon Johnson, Ben Bernanke, Linus Pauling, Margaret Mead, an incredible array of talent. We believe we should be the neutral gathering spot for the exchange of great ideas. So we're honored to do it again tonight. Welcome this evening. Enjoy the debates. Thank you for coming.
All right, thank you, Mr. Koss. And now let's welcome the 4 candidates for mayor on our stage this evening in alphabetical order. They are Omega Allen, running without party affiliation, Republican Bill Bishop, Democrat Alvin Brown, and Republican Lenny Curry. Now, these candidates will soon make their opening statements for us, and then we're going to begin the questioning. For the first part of our debate, I'm going to pose a question to a specific candidate who will have 1 minute to respond, and then other candidates will have 1 minute to respond, and we'll do that in alphabetical order as well. The questions tonight have been developed by our News for Jax political team and solicited from viewers like you through social media. Later on in the debate, I'm going to pose a question to a specific candidate who will have 1 minute to answer, and then other candidates will be able to respond if they wish. A candidate who declines to answer a question will not gain additional time for future responses. During the debate tonight, we know that, we let the candidates know how much time they have with some color paddles that are here at the edge of the stage. At 30 seconds left, 15 seconds left, and then again when the time is up, and you may hear a little faint ding in the background once we get to that point. And 1 hour ago, in the interest of complete fairness and doing it in a random way, we drew numbers out of a hat to determine the order for opening statements, as well as to determine who will get the first question and the order of the closing statements as well. Each candidate will have 30 seconds for their opening statement, and we begin tonight with Mr. Bill Bishop.
Thank you very much, and welcome everyone. Thank you for being here, and thank you for all for tuning in at home this evening. We have a very important decision to make this mayoral election, and it's one that is going to affect all of us here and the entire city of Jacksonville. My unique blend of city council business experience, serving as council president, and my professional background as an architect make me the best candidate to serve in this office. I understand how business and the city ought to work together. I design places for people to live, work, and play. I understand how cities are supposed to work. And the most important thing is there's no on-the-job training here. Together, we can build a great city.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bishop.
I look forward tonight.
Thank you. It's a short opening statement.
Oh, I thought it was a minute.
30 seconds right there. Omega Allen, you're next.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Omega Allen, your candidate for mayor. I'm a native of Jacksonville. I love this city, and I love the people of Jacksonville. I believe that government is supposed to operate for and by the people, and I want to bring to you an administration that is laced with honesty, accountability, and transparency. I am no party affiliate. I have no obligations to anyone except the people of Jacksonville. Omega Allen for mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Mr. Curry.
Good evening. I want to share a little personal story with you. My dad, Roy, is a Navy veteran. When he was in the Navy, he learned electronics as a skill and turned that into a small business that was television repair. My mom, Linda, kept the books, and I worked the shop. My mom and dad taught me the importance of integrity, of honesty, and hard work. I'm here tonight because I want to be your next mayor, because I want every single one of you to have the exact same opportunities that I've had right here in Jacksonville, Florida.
Thank you, Mr. Curry. Mr. Brown.
Good evening. I'm so happy to be here tonight at Jacksonville University. I wouldn't be standing here if it wasn't for JU. I got my undergrad and graduate degree right here from Jacksonville University. 4 years ago, I made promises. I promised that we'd create jobs. We now have 36,000 new jobs. I promised I'd stop wasteful spending. I cut my own pay by 20% and pay for my own parking at City Hall. I promised that we'd close the education gap. We now have programs like Learn to Earn to give young people an opportunity to reach their God-given potential.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Brown. Appreciate that. We're now begin our questioning, and again, by the random draw earlier, we're going to begin questions with Ms. Allen. I'm going to talk to you about crime. Recent University of North Florida poll showed that crime tops the list of concerns for Jacksonville's voters. Almost daily we hear news of homicides and other violent crimes in the city. Earlier this week, for instance, a 15-year-old was arrested and charged with attempted carjacking and accused of pistol whipping a UNF deputy police chief in northwest Jacksonville. So the question is, when was the last time you visited one of the city's crime-plagued neighborhoods, like in this case, northwest Jacksonville, to see if the people who live there have any answers to our violent crime issue?
Well, I've been in that area over the last 2 or 3 weeks almost every day, and I do talk to the people about what their concerns are. And what my concern is their concern. And I have promised them that what I will do is walk with the sheriff to be there, not just during the campaign, but throughout my administration, to be there to hear their concerns continually and to address them personally.
When was the last time you were in one of those areas? How recently?
The very last time?
Yeah.
Day before yesterday.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Bishop.
Well, thank you. I've been in Northwest Jacksonville quite a bit, talking with various business groups, including the Southern Christian Leadership Conference and various business groups in that area. The most important thing is economic development and jobs. Job creation is the best crime fighter that there is. When people can support their families, they are more likely to do that, and as opposed to doing other things that are just basically not supposed to happen. And so that's really job number one as a crime fighting exercise, is create jobs in our community.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop. Mr. Brown.
Well, I was in the area last week. I launched this program called Community Empowerment Days, taking resources right to the community, helping those in need. You know, I focus on prevention and intervention, making sure that young people have after-school programs to go to. That's why we launched the Learn to Earn, the Mayor's Mentors. We have over 600 caring adults mentoring young people, really getting to the cut off the root of crime, working with the nonprofit community. I was just in a neighborhood last week. I'm out there every day making sure that they're safe.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Mr. Curry?
Thank you. Oh, within the last few weeks, I did a ride-along with an officer from about 10 in the middle of the night. Was able to interact and engage with the community and see exactly what happens and what goes on. Also spent an evening at UF Health at Shands in their trauma center. In fact, I was there the night a gentleman came in that had been shot 15 times. I've been saying since the beginning of this campaign that the highest priority and function of government is the safety of its citizens, that every person and every family and every neighborhood ought to be safe. I will restore the 147 policemen and women that were cut by Alvin Brown's budget, and I will invest in programs like the Jacksonville Journey that work. You know, the mayor talks about intervention, prevention, intervention, and enforcement. I'm actually going to fund it.
All right. Thank you, candidates. Appreciate that. We'll start with Mr. Bishop, and we'll have time for responses later. Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Bishop, we're going to start here with the downtown topic. Most of you on the panel say that you believe a lively downtown is the key to unlocking the city's potential, and that everybody seems to be in favor of developing the shipyards. From From what we know of the current proposals, the city's being asked for a lot: to donate the land, 48 acres of riverfront, contribute the property tax revenue back to the project, pay up to $35 million for an environmental cleanup, as well as pay millions more for infrastructure. So, starting with you, Councilman Bishop, can the city afford all that, and where will you as mayor find that money?
Well, keep in mind one thing, that proposal is just simply at the moment an unsolicited proposal. The RFP for developers has just now gone out, and that in a sense is just the first ask. It's a standard development tool to ask for everything, and you negotiate it out. We don't know where that's going to end up, and we also don't know that that's going to be the proposal that we actually accept. And so it's really premature to decide what we have to pay for and where the money's going to come from. We don't know the answer to that yet. But the most important thing is that the marketplace is finally seeing that downtown Jacksonville is coming back. It is extremely important to redevelop downtown, because if for no other reason than is that downtowns that thrive are cash generators for the city. They are net tax generators to the city, and they help subsidize the rest of the city in all the services that we need and want.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Bishop. Mayor Brown.
Well, you know, I made downtown a top priority of my administration, and don't take my word for it. The TU says downtown is roaring. It's booming. There are more people working downtown, living downtown. You have economic development going on downtown with Riverside 220, with Fish Market, you know, Brooklyn housing going up. You have more people working downtown. Everbank moved 1,500 people downtown. So I think because of the economic development, this proposal, that the first proposal that came in with Shad Khan, I think it's very iconic. I think it makes sense. I think it's something that the city's going to look at. You got the Downtown Investment Authority that I created that's going to look at the proposals, but I'm excited about the future downtown. There's a lot going on downtown, and I'm excited about it.
Does it seem expensive to you, this initial proposal?
No,
How would you pay for it?
I think the key is making sure you have a public-private partnership. If you look at all the opportunities we've taken advantage of over the last 4 years, you know, Brooklyn, for example, you have to put skin in the game. It's too early to talk about the cost. DIA, the Downtown Investment Authority, has a great president and CEO on the board. They'll be looking at that.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Mr. Curry.
I think it's a bold plan. I think it's exciting for Jacksonville that we have someone like Mr. Khan that's willing to invest in our city. But let's talk, when we talk about the money that the city has and the dollars, understand that over the last few weeks, tens of millions of dollars members of council have found that the mayor's office didn't know they had. Literally tens of millions of dollars are unaccounted for. The city has been financially mismanaged. And let me say this, anytime we're looking at investing and working in a partnership with a private organization, I'm going to have a written policy and a scorecard that says very specifically what are the objectives and what is the return on investment to the taxpayer. We're going to measure it, we're only going to do what makes sense, and we're going to publish it so you, the taxpayer, know exactly what you're getting in return.
Yeah, so that specific proposal and the cost associated, do you feel like it's too early to say yes or no to that? Or do you feel like that's something worth investing in? Where would you find the money as a mayor?
When I'm mayor, I'm going to have a written policy about how we invest and work with private organizations. And where it makes sense, based on written objectives and a rate of return for the taxpayer. What does this mean for you, the taxpayer? What are you getting in return? What services? What does it mean for our quality of life? That's how I'll make every single one of those decisions.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Curry. Ms. Allen.
Yes, do I think it's affordable? That remains to be seen. I believe that we do need to look into our budget, do some rebudgeting, make sure that we do have proper allocation of funds. As mayor, what I believe my role would be to broker deals between capitalists who understand economics and make sure that Jacksonville does not come out on the losing end, that everybody, all of the stakeholders, actually reap some benefit and not leaving us vulnerable with everything that's happening around us right now. We need to make sure that Jacksonville does not get left holding the bag as it relates to all of our investments. We hold a key portion. We're the landholders. We need to make sure, and as your mayor, I would make sure that Jacksonville reaps its benefits and gets a good return on our investments.
Ms. Allen, thank you very much. Mayor Brown, this question to you and then the rest of the candidates here. Let's talk about pension. The City Council is currently considering hiring an outside auditor to conduct a forensic investigation of the police and fire pension fund. Does it bother you that the fund is so heavily in debt while a few retirees and Administrator John Keene are poised to collect hundreds of thousands and potentially millions in what have been called exceptional benefits? And would you urge the council to hire Benchmark Financial Services to do that audit?
Well, let me say this. You know, I inherited the pension challenge. I took it on head on. We've led on the issue of retirement reform. We have a plan right now in front of City Council that would save $1.3 billion over 30 years. And the pension plan was endorsed by the TU, the Civic Council, the Police and Fire Pension Fund, Bill Shy, chair of the task force, Republican, support the plan. You know, it's a great plan. The problem is, according to Bill Shy, Council President Clay Yarborough basically delayed the pension reform plan in plain politics. I think it's a good plan. It'll save the taxpayers money. It addresses the #1 issue we have in this city, and you don't have to raise taxes nor raise utility rates. It's a good plan. The new plan that we have deals with the governance structure, the question that you just asked. So it deals with the governance. So it's a great plan. It solves the unfunded liability problem. Council should vote it up or down. That's the issue.
All right, thank you, Mayor Brown. Mr. Curry.
Thank you. If the mayor was serious about a plan, there was a plan ready to go 4 years ago when John Payton left office. Police, fire agreed to it, and City Council was ready to sign it. It would have saved the city $1 billion over 30 years. Because he didn't take that plan, and he basically waited till election year politics, here's what's happened. We've had a leadership vacuum. And let me tell you this, the men and women in uniform that go out and put their lives on the line every day have been demonized in this process. When I talk about the ride-along that I did with the policeman a few weeks ago, I saw things that night that if I had to put that gun on and that badge on every night, I wouldn't feel good about walking away from my family. The first plan should have been taken 4 years ago. That's a blueprint that works. That's where I'll start my negotiation, and that's how I'll lead on a go-forward basis.
So, Mr. Curry, let me just get to the point of that audit idea that's in City Council. You've talked about you want an audit on the city. You did that just a moment ago. What about here for the Police and Fire Pension Fund? And does it bother you about these exceptional benefits that people are getting?
Anytime we can add more transparency and open up to the citizens of Jacksonville about exactly what's going on with their finances, particularly when we know the city's been financially mismanaged, I'm absolutely for it. Look, men and women were promised benefits by politicians in years gone by. We have to find a way to, look, I'm a businessman. We honor what we promise. We have to reform this on a go-forward basis.
All right, thank you. Mayor Brown, he did direct that kind of at you. So a word of response. I want to get to the other candidates first and then get yours. Ms. Allen? I'll give you that chance in just a moment. Yes, sir. Ms. Allen?
Yes, it does bother me that the exceptional benefits are in place when we are in such a debacle with the pension plan. And yes, I would recommend to council that they revisit it and come up with a different solution.
All right, thank you. Mr. Bishop, you're on council, so you've got a different perspective here.
First of all, yes, the forensic audit is absolutely necessary. There's a lot of problems in the Police and Fire Pension Fund that goes far and beyond the excessive benefits that for a few that are in a sense tainting everybody else and putting them all in a bad light. I do want to correct Mr. Curry on one thing. The plan that was put forth under Mayor Payton, the council in no way was going to pass that proposal, which is why it never got passed out in the first place. It didn't go far enough and it wasn't going to work. With respect to the proposal that's on the table now, it's designed to fail. We passed out we are going to vote on a plan that is supposed to refine benefits, but only if we put more money in it. That's supposed to save us money. If we don't find a funding source, then the plan doesn't happen at all. So this whole thing is counterintuitive. It just isn't going to work. It's a bad idea. But we need to have pension reform because it is the seminal issue that right now is consuming every bit of resources that we have, keeping us from doing anything like rehiring 147 new police officers.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bishop. Mr. Brown, yes.
So a couple of things. One, Lenny keeps talking about the Payton plan. The Payton plan did not deal with the unfunded liability. The Payton plan was only going to save $700 million, whereas the plan that is on the desk of City Council would save $600 million more. You don't need to be an accountant to do the numbers, okay? The other thing is this, he keeps talking about this $10 million. The $10 million was there already in the budget for the city to make the investment in improving the quality of life and infrastructure. So, you know, we have a council auditor. They audit the budget every year. So I just want to be clear about that. You know, it's very important to stick with the facts, and that's the facts.
All right, thank you, Mayor Brown. Mr. Curry, I'm actually going to start the next question for you and I gave you a couple of chances already on that topic, so that's why I'm not allowing a response right there. Mr. Curry, I want to talk about the port, Jacksport, pushing to deepen the St. Johns River channel from 40 to 47 feet to accommodate newer, bigger cargo ships. Federal and state government would pay for a lot of that, but the city would still have to pay about $135 million or so. Are you for or against the dredging, and if so, where would you find that money?
Thank you for your question. And let me say this, Mayor, with all due respect, talk about financial mismanagement. Your pension plan wants to obligate the city of Jacksonville to $40 million a year for 10 years without a way to pay for it. Port, yes, I believe that we ought to.
That's false. And you know.
It's true.
As you said.
Let's check the news
The
cycle.
port?
Yes. Look, the port is an incredibly important asset and economic opportunity. I've walked the docks. I've spent time with the men and women out there. The opportunity is tremendous. If we simply come up with a strategic plan, work with our partners, and actually go to Tallahassee and work with Governor Scott to advocate for it, show him a return on investment. I'm prepared to do that. I believe, absolutely believe, we ought to deepen the channel.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Curry. Ms. Allen.
I am in favor of dredging, but I think we need more answers. I've conferred with biologists familiar with dredging on the national level, and it does not come without consequences. We need to ask questions like, how did the last one turn out? How long did it take the ecosystem to recover after your last activity? What are we going to do with the dredging material? Are we going to build a shelf? Are we going to drop it off the shelf? Are we going to build a dredging island? Are we going to, what's in it? If it's contaminated, the cost goes up exponentially. So there are a lot of things that we have to consider. We as a community may need to determine whether or not our shores are even naturally conducive to dredging. And we need to find out, and we need to answer for ourselves whether or not the importance of economic development by way of the port supersedes other areas of economic development.
Thank you, Ms. Allen. Mr. Bishop.
The port is an economic engine that we must make sure that we keep it modern, must invest in infrastructure because it does provide a lot of economic benefit and a lot of jobs. With respect to dredging the river, the answer is not easy, but the analysis is quite simple. If we can dredge that river, first of all, if we can afford to dredge that river, the price tag is actually probably going to be closer to $250 million. If we can afford to do it, and we can do it without adversely affecting the health of the river, because once you dredge, you can't undredge, then we should do it. If we cannot make sure that the health of the river is protected, then we should not. It's a very simple exercise, because even if we don't dredge, that port is still an extremely viable economic engine and brings a lot of jobs and can bring even more based on how some of the shipping models are being developed right now, even without it being dredged.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop. Mayor Brown.
Well, you know, I'm excited about our port. Our port is a great economic engine. It's responsible for over 60,000 jobs. It's putting a lot of people back to work. I want Jacksonville to be able to compete in a global economy. So no longer we're going to compete against states, but position ourselves to compete in a global economy to focus on exporting, supporting small and medium-sized companies. The other thing is I led the delegation in the effort to secure the deepening of the harbor. We have a port task force, 17-member, some of the best minds in this city to put together a game plan. And I'm the chairman for the U.S. Conference of Mayors of Exports and Ports. So we're working with our congressional delegation, working with Governor Scott. He's already invested in the port. He's committed to the port. We talk about the port all the time. He's put the money there. We're going to make it happen. We cannot afford not to deal with expanding our port to compete. We're working with the Riverkeeper. We got the business community working together, the Rodman Dam, the Chamber, and the state. We're all working together. We have a shared vision to make sure that we can compete in the 21st century.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Brown. Well, that concludes the first half of our questioning. No, sorry. Hate to say it, no. So that concludes the first half of our questioning. For this next part of our debate, what we're going to do is I'm going to pose a question to one of you as a specific candidate who will have 1 minute to respond. And then after that, any of you who chooses to can jump in and respond as well. Any candidate who chooses not to answer a question, you're not getting additional time for later questions. And based on the order that we've done this so far, we begin with Omega Allen. Ms. Allen, 2 years ago, the city budget was balanced with a tax increase. Last year, city budget was balanced by taking money out of reserves. Wall Street bond agencies recently downgraded the city's bonds. So what would you do as mayor to get the city's financial house in order?
As mayor, I'm in favor of rebudgeting. Rebudgeting is absolutely necessary. It is when you look at your budget more than once a year to make sure that the allocated funds are done accurately. I will go through our budget with a fine-tooth comb. I'll have my staff find out where we're short, where we're over, and we will redirect the funds as necessary for the best outcome for the people of Jacksonville.
Ms. Allen, thank you. Mr. Bishop? Mr. Brown? Mr. Curry? Anyone? Yes. Yes, Mr. Bishop.
Actually, the budget last year, we did use a little bit of reserves, but we reduced the amount of reserves from $37 million down to about 3 or 4 because it was just, again, way out of whack. Our problem right now is our pension fund, which is causing us to spend over $200 million a year on pensions. We have cut this city down to the bone for the most part, and with respect to going forward, we are going to have more money in this system, or we are going to have to decide what we're going to live without. It's not any more complicated than that. We either need a little more money or we need to figure out what we're going to live without, because we don't have enough money coming in to pay the bills as it stands right now. All the 90-day audits aren't going to find it. You cannot find several tens of millions of dollars in recurring funds, because that's what it's going to take to make this work.
Mr. Brown.
So, when I ran 4 years ago, I made a commitment not to raise taxes, and I'm proud to say I kept that commitment. I think that the private sector is the engine of our community, not government. I made a commitment to be more effective and efficient, and we're doing that. And I led by example. I cut my own pay by 20%. I pay for my own parking at City Hall. We can't keep putting the burden on hardworking taxpayers. We got to empower the small business and entrepreneurs. We got to make sure that the private sector is the engine of our community. And that's why I'm very proud that I work with the business community. I work with Governor Rick Scott to put Jacksonville back to work. 36,000 new jobs, the #1 city in the country to start a business. And Forbes just named us last week the second in the country if you're looking for a job. Things are happening here that's positive. Why put that at risk? I believe by working together with our congressional delegation, with the private sector, with Governor Scott, continue to work with the business community, we can make it happen. At the end of the day, it's the private sector that's making it happen. Think about it. We got GE bringing 500 new jobs here. Things are happening in this city.
Thank you. I'm Kent Justice. Thanks so much for joining us tonight from Jacksonville University.